The morning my mother knocked on my door, she wasn't alone. A man in a dark suit stood beside her, holding a folder. My name is Lena. I'm a single mother raising my 6-year-old daughter, Maya. The small house we lived in wasn't fancy, but it was our safe place. Every wall carried memories, Maya's drawings, birthday photos, and the little pencil marks showing how tall she had grown. When I opened the door, my mother didn't smile. "Lena," she said coldly, "we need to talk." The man stepped forward. "I'm a legal representative for your parents." My stomach tightened. He opened the folder and handed me a paper. "They're requesting that you vacate this property within 30 days. For a moment, I couldn't speak. "Vacate?" I whispered. "Mom, this is my home." She avoided my eyes. "Your sister needs a house," she said. "You've always been independent. She deserves a fresh start." My chest felt heavy. "You're throwing me and your granddaughter out?" "Don't make this dramatic," she replied sharply. "The paperwork is already filed." Behind me, Maya peeked from the hallway holding her stuffed rabbit. "Mommy, who is that?" I forced a small smile. "It's nothing, sweetheart." But it wasn't nothing. After they left, I sat at the table and opened the envelope again. Court papers, legal notices, property documents. Then something caught my attention. One line in the paperwork didn't make sense. According to the record, the legal ownership of the house had never fully transferred to my parents. My hands froze. Because if the document was correct, then someone in my family had lied about this house for years. And just as I was trying to understand it, someone knocked on the door again. The knock came again, slow and steady. For a second, I thought my mother had come back. Maybe she forgot something, or maybe she wanted to pressure me again. I walked to the door and opened it carefully. A woman stood there, wearing a gray coat and holding a leather folder. "Are you Lena?" she asked. "Yes." "My name is Miss Howard. I work with county property records." My heart immediately started beating faster. "Did my parents send you?" I asked. She shook her head. "No. I'm here because something unusual came up while reviewing the ownership history of this house." I stepped aside and let her in. Maya was sitting on the couch drawing with her crayons. Miss Howard placed a yellow document on the table. "This is the original property record from 20 years ago," she said. I looked at the paper. The ink was faded, but one thing was clear. The house had once belonged to my grandfather. "That part one, no," I said quietly. "Yes," she replied. "But the transfer after his death was never fully completed." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" "It means the house legally belongs to the person named in the final transfer." I swallowed hard. "And who is that?" Before she could answer, my phone suddenly rang. The screen showed my sister's name, Rachel. I answered. Her voice was angry. "Lena, what did you do?" "What are you talking about?" "Mom and Dad just got a call from the court," she said. "Someone challenged their ownership of the house." I felt my fingers tighten around the phone. "I didn't challenge anything." There was a pause. Then Rachel said quietly, "If it wasn't you, then who has Grandpa's documents?" I slowly turned to Miss Howard, because she was staring at the paper like she had just realized something important. And the name written at the bottom of that document was not my parents'. My eyes stayed on the paper. "Whose name is it?" I asked quietly. Miss Howard didn't answer right away. She adjusted her glasses and read the line again, like she wanted to be absolutely sure. Then she slowly turned the document toward me. "This is the name listed as the final beneficiary," she said. I leaned closer. For a moment, my brain refused to understand what I was seeing, because the name written there was mine. Lena Carter. My heart started pounding. "That can't be right," I said quickly. "My parents always told me the house went to them after Grandpa died." Ms. Howard shook her head. "The record shows your grandfather filed a transfer request before his death. According to this file, the property was meant to go directly to you." The room felt suddenly smaller. "But I was only 19 back then," I whispered. "I didn't even know anything about property papers." "That may be exactly why," she replied softly. Before I could process it, my phone buzzed again. Another call from Rachel. I answered. Her voice sounded different this time, nervous. Lena, something strange just happened. What? Mom is panicking. She says someone went to the old lawyer's office this morning asking about Grandpa's will. My chest tightened. Who? That's the weird part, Rachel said. The receptionist told Mom the person claimed to be a member of our family. I frowned. Which family member? Rachel hesitated. Then she whispered something that made my stomach drop. She said the visitor introduced himself as your Uncle Daniel. I froze. Rachel, Uncle Daniel died 10 years ago. I know, she whispered. And that's exactly why Mom looks terrified right now. At that exact moment, someone slowly tried to open my front door. The door handle slowly turned. For a second, my heart stopped. I looked at Ms. Howard. She had noticed it too. Did you invite someone else? She whispered. I shook my head. Maya looked up from the couch. Mommy, stay here, I said softly.
The door opened a few inches, then stopped.
A man's voice came from outside. Lena, it's me. My body froze. That voice felt familiar, but impossible. Slowly, I walked toward the door and opened it. A tall man stood there, wearing a dark jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. For a moment, I couldn't see his face clearly. Then he lifted his head. My breath caught. The man standing in front of me looked exactly like my Uncle Daniel. Same sharp eyes. Same scar above the eyebrow. But that couldn't be true. Uncle Daniel? I whispered. He gave a small, tired smile. Yeah, kid, he said quietly. I guess I owe you a lot of explanations. Behind me, Ms. Howard stepped closer. You're Daniel Carter? She asked carefully. He nodded once. But according to official records, she continued, you died 10 years ago. He sighed and rubbed the back of his neck. That's the story your parents told everyone. My mind raced. Why would they lie about something like that?
Daniel looked directly at me.
Because the night your grandfather changed his will, your parents weren't supposed to find out. A chill ran down my spine. What do you mean? He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. Your grandfather left that house to you for a reason, he said quietly. And the truth is, your parents were never meant to control it. My heart pounded. Then why did they act like they owned it all these years? Daniel looked toward the window, like he was remembering something dark. Because the night your grandfather signed those papers, something happened in this house that no one was supposed to talk about. Before I could ask what he meant, someone knocked loudly on the door again. This time it wasn't gentle. The knock came again, louder this time.
Bang, bang, bang.
Maya jumped on the couch. Mommy, who is that? I don't know, I said, trying to stay calm. Daniel walked slowly toward the door and looked through the small glass window. His face immediately turned serious. It's them, he said quietly. Who? I asked. Your parents. My stomach tightened. Another loud knock shook the door. My mother's voice came from outside. Lena, open this door right now. I hesitated, but Daniel gave me a small nod. I unlocked the door. The moment it opened, my mother pushed her way inside, followed by my father and Rachel. My mother's eyes immediately landed on Daniel. For a second, she looked like she had seen a ghost. You, she whispered. My father stepped back in shock. That's impossible. Daniel crossed his arms calmly. Hello, big brother. The room went completely silent. Rachel looked confused. Mom, what's going on? My mother ignored her and stared at Daniel. You were never supposed to come back, she said in a shaking voice. Daniel's expression hardened. Yeah, he replied. That's what you told everyone after you reported me dead. Maya looked at me, scared. Mommy, why are they fighting? Before I could answer, my father suddenly slammed his hand on the table. That house belongs to us, he shouted. Daniel laughed softly. No, it doesn't. Ms. Howard stepped forward and placed the document on the table. The legal record shows the property belongs to Lena. My mother's face turned pale. Then she whispered something that made the room feel colder. You don't understand, she said. If Lena keeps this house, then the truth about that night will come out. My heart started racing. What night? I asked. No one answered. But Daniel slowly looked at my parents and said something that made my blood run cold. The night Grandpa died. He wasn't alone in this house. The room went silent. My mother's face lost all color. Daniel, stop, she said quickly. But he didn't. He looked straight at me. Lena, the night your grandfather died, I was here. My heart pounded. You told everyone he passed away peacefully in his bedroom, Daniel continued, staring at my parents. But that's not what really happened. My father's voice suddenly rose. That's enough. Daniel ignored him. Your grandfather called me that night, he said to me. He told me he had just signed the final papers giving this house to you. My chest tightened. Why me? I asked. Because you are the only one he trusted, Daniel replied. My mother stepped forward, her voice shaking. He was confused that night. He didn't know what he was doing. Daniel shook his head slowly.
No.
He knew exactly what he was doing. Rachel looked between them, completely lost. Can someone please explain what's going on? Daniel pointed toward the staircase. When I arrived, your grandfather and your father were arguing in the living room. My father's face turned red. That's a lie. But Daniel continued. Your grandfather said the house would never belong to you because he knew what you planned to do with it. My breath caught. What did he mean? I whispered. Daniel looked at my father. But before he could answer, my mother suddenly shouted. Stop talking. Her voice was desperate now. Daniel, if you say another word, everything will fall apart. Daniel slowly turned back to me. That's the point. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small old object. A voice recorder. I didn't just witness that argument, he said quietly. I recorded it. The room felt frozen. My father's eyes widened with pure fear. Because if that recording was real, then whatever happened in this house that night was about to be heard for the first time. No one moved. My father stared at the small recorder in Daniel's hand like it was a weapon. That's fake, he said quickly. You're bluffing. Daniel didn't argue. He simply pressed a button. For a second, only static filled the room. Then a familiar voice came through the speaker. My grandfather. His voice sounded older, weaker, but clear. James, he said, I already told you. The house goes to Lena. My father's younger voice answered, sharp with anger. You're making a mistake. I'm protecting this family, Grandpa replied. Rachel covered her mouth in shock. My mother whispered, turn that off. But Daniel didn't. The recording continued. You think I don't know your plan? Grandpa said in the audio. You want to sell this house the moment I'm gone. My father's voice grew louder. That land is worth a fortune. We can't just give it to Lena. My heart pounded in my chest. I looked at my father. He couldn't even look at me. Then Grandpa spoke again in the recording. This house is the only thing keeping this family together. If you sell it, everything will fall apart. There was a loud crash in the audio, like furniture being pushed. Rachel whispered, what was that? Daniel's face turned dark. That's when things got worse. My mother suddenly rushed forward. Give me that, she shouted. But Daniel stepped back. The recorder kept playing. Grandpa's voice sounded strained now. James, stop. Then there was a loud thud. And silence. The recording ended there. My hands started shaking. Daniel, I whispered. What happened after that? He looked at my parents, then back at me. And his answer made the air feel heavy. After that moment, your grandfather stopped breathing. Before anyone could react, someone outside suddenly shouted, Police! Open the door. Every face in the room turned pale, because no one in this house had called them. The word police echoed through the house. For a second, no one moved. My father looked toward the door, his face pale. Who called them? Rachel whispered. I didn't, I said. Daniel slowly slipped the recorder back into his pocket. The knocking came again. Police! Open the door. My mother's hands started shaking. This can't be happening. My father quickly walked to the door and opened it. 2 officers stepped inside. One of them looked around the room carefully. We received a call about a possible property dispute and a recording connected to a past death, he said. My heart skipped. They already knew. The officer's eyes stopped on Daniel. Sir, we're going to need to ask you a few questions. Daniel nodded calmly. That's fine. Then the officer turned toward my parents. But first, we need to confirm something about a death that occurred in this house 10 years ago. My mother looked like she might faint. It was natural causes, she said quickly. The officer didn't react. Maybe, he replied. But we've recently received new information. He looked directly at Daniel. Information suggesting the original report may not have told the whole story. Silence filled the room. Maya quietly held my hand. Mommy, are we in trouble? I knelt beside her. No, sweetheart. But honestly, I didn't know anymore. Because the officer then said something none of us expected. The call we received this morning wasn't anonymous, he explained. It came from someone claiming to be a witness to what happened here that night. My heart started racing. I looked at Daniel. You mean him? I asked. The officer shook his head slowly.
No.
Then he read a name from his notebook. And the moment I heard it, my entire world tilted. Because the person who called the police was my grandfather. The room went completely still. My grandfather? I whispered. That's impossible, my father said quickly. He died 10 years ago. The officer looked at his notebook again. The caller used the name Arthur Carter, he said. He claimed to be the original owner of this property. Arthur Carter, my grandfather's name. My mother grabbed the back of a chair to steady herself. That's some kind of sick joke, she muttered. Daniel frowned. What exactly did the caller say? He asked. The officer replied calmly. He said the truth about what happened in this house that night was about to be buried forever, unless someone stopped it. A chill ran through me. Rachel looked around the room nervously. Maybe someone is pretending to be Grandpa, she said. The officer nodded slightly. That's possible. But the caller knew specific details from the original death report, details that were never released publicly. My father's jaw tightened. What details? He asked. The officer hesitated. According to the caller, Arthur Carter didn't die in his bedroom. My heart skipped. He said your grandfather collapsed in the living room after a physical struggle. Everyone slowly looked at the same spot on the floor. The place where our old rug used to be. Daniel spoke quietly. That's exactly where he fell. My mother suddenly shouted. This is ridiculous. But the officer wasn't finished. There's one more thing the caller told us, he said.
What?
I asked. He looked directly at me. He said there is proof hidden somewhere inside this house, proof that explains why someone in this family wanted Arthur Carter gone. My chest tightened. Proof where? The officer closed his notebook. He didn't say. Then he added one last sentence. He only said the person who finds it first will finally understand what really happened that night. At that exact moment, a loud creaking sound came from upstairs. The creaking sound from upstairs made everyone freeze. Slow, heavy footsteps echoed across the hallway above us. The officers looked at each other. Is someone else in the house? One of them asked.
No, y whisperat.
It's just us. But the sound came again. Step, step, step. Daniel moved toward the staircase. That sound is coming from Grandpa's old room, he said quietly. My heart pounded as we all followed him upstairs. The door to the room was slightly open. One officer pushed it wider. Inside, everything looked untouched, old furniture, dusty shelves, and the wooden desk my grandfather used every day. Then Daniel pointed to the wall. Wait. Behind the desk, a small wooden panel was slightly open. The officer pulled it aside. Inside the hidden space was a small metal box. My hands shook as he opened it. Inside were old documents, photos, and one final letter. The officer handed the letter to me. My fingers trembled as I unfolded it. The handwriting was my grandfather's. If you are reading this, Lena, it means the truth is finally coming out. Tears filled my eyes. I gave this house to you because you care about people, not money. I knew your parents would try to take it. I looked up slowly. My parents couldn't even meet my eyes. The letter continued. Daniel is the only one I trusted to protect this secret. If anything happened to me, he promised he would come back and help you. Daniel quietly nodded. The officer closed the box. Based on these documents, he said calmly, the house legally belongs to Lena. My father said nothing. My mother just stared at the floor. I looked around the house, the memories, the drawings on the walls. Maya hugged my arm. Mommy, are we staying? For the first time that day, I finally smiled. Yes, I said softly. This is our home.